Hi, I'm Brian, and on this video, I'd like us to time travel all the way back to 1994. It's not that far, come on, we can do it, and put ourselves in this situation. Imagine if our previous album, masterwork, our magnum opus, imagine if that album, Priest Equals Aura, was a flop, that some of our fans didn't get it, the record buying public certainly didn't get it, America didn't get it, and on top of that, over the last 3 years, we've lost a couple of incredible drummers in Richard and JD, and on top of that, one half of the guitar orchestra, Peter Koppes, has also walked out the door, maybe never to return. So in this era of despondency, and dependency works fine for me. What do Marty and Steve decide to do? Well, they decide to head into a studio, but not Los Angeles this time. No. Not 301 Studios in Sydney. No. But to Karmic Hit in Sydney. And they record this album, Sometime Anywhere, this sprawling double album of ideas is what they come up with. Now, this is a reissue that came out in 2016 on the Plain Records label. It's fairly plain there. And on the back, we have the tracks. And notice there's only 3 songs per side, 4 over this one. But this album cover is very synonymous with the album itself, and that is that no idea is left unused, and it gets thrown in. Sort of like this cover, it's a very busy cover, so is the album itself. And what they've done is they've gone into songs with full-on electronica, EDM, rap, all these different styles. They've just thrown the ideas at the wall and see which ones stick, which ones go slide down. And in this, they're helped out, should have said, and the vinyl is colored. Sounds good. The vinyl is colored. We've got blue, and this one's about to fall out. I don't want to do that again. Blue and orange. Now, to assist us in this, we had let's get rid of the hypotheticals now. To assist in this, they had Andy Dare Mason, who's Marty's longtime collaborator and friend, to help co-produce the album. But also, after mainly using drum machines on this album, like they did on Gold Afternoon Fix, when they needed drums, they called on Tim Powles, who you will know is the current drummer for the Church. And he's been in that chair just about as long as Peter and Marty were in the band as well, and they said he'd never last 75 plus minutes. Because that's about how long this album is, 75 plus minutes. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. But also, suppose we have to ask, is this an album which is based on resilience, creativity, and fortitude, or is it just a dashing but ill-advised folly? Well, let's talk about it. The album starts almost traditionally with an epic. You know, they've done this almost traditionally over the years with Destination, with Sea Line, with Numbers, and it is an acidic psychedelic masterpiece. This is a song you want. Kilbey sings along to the bass, or is it the other way around? Do 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 do, and there's soaring acid rock guitar from Marty. He's really waving his freak flag high on this, and I love the rolling toms that is brought in underneath. I'm one of these terrible people who sometimes can't tell the difference between a drum machine and a drummer. But anyway, Marty's also using these beautiful feedbacking and delay effects to also add more layers of guitars underneath it all. I mean, there is layer upon layer upon layer upon layer on this album. And who or what is doing all those voices towards the end of the song? I've got a feeling now that I've really listened to it. It might be Steve and Marty, but I'm still not sure. And I think various speed might have been used to further distort the lyrics as well in that point. But the lyrics are really cool. Day of the Dead down in Mexico, dripping smoke, dollars and aftershave. I got the mind of an astronaut, emerging from the shell unscathed, climbing out of hell unchanged. I mean, if you want that sort of epic to start off your Church album, you're really going to enjoy this one. And here's something new on the next song, which is called Lost My Touch. Never really heard the Church get into EDM or hip hop before, but I love the groove of this song. It's immediately catchy. Love the verses, love the choruses, and the rapping in the verses is, and the wonderful melody to the chorus is standout sort of stuff. It grabs you and holds on to you. They've got opera singers, they've got chanters, they've got found sounds all over the place. They're panning from ear to ear all over this song. And I suppose maybe a criticism that I and maybe others have had about the album is that it's too long, and then maybe we could have snipped a chorus out of this song, or a verse or a guitar solo out of this song. But in this case, when it's this good with the vocals, the guitars, the chanting, bit of feedback, I'm all in for the entire journey here. they're really a sort of solid sonic space that I want to spend time in. So that's a great song. That's Lost My Touch. And then we move on to Loveblind, which is the second single off the album. And it's got a similar bouncy Manchester feel to the opening of this song. And I kind of dig. It's a great vocal performance which follows the idea of the conventions of a film noir detective and the engaging with a femme fatale, only to realize that, oh, I can't give it away, can I? Well, it's been out for so long, only to realize that the villain that he's been chasing is himself. In the mirror, in my space, there was a man without a face. I rang my client and banged on her door. I told her it was me that she was looking for, that we was looking for. Really good. Reminds me a lot musically of In This Room off the Sing Songs album in terms of the chord progression, and that's just a totally good thing. Now, Marty's guitar turnaround in the middle of the song, sort of going into this flamenco Eastern feel, is really interesting. You're sort of settling into this song, and you think you're just about to jump out of it, and then this comes along, and it sort of takes me back to the opening of Gold Afternoon Fix and Pharaoh with "Is there anybody here? I could swear I'm not alone. Show your faces if you dare." That part, and that's again a good thing. I love the symphony of acoustic classical guitars at the end, and there's backing vocals, which reminds me a lot of Giving Shelter. I think you know the bit I mean, right at the end. Anyway, a top song, love it again. Next up, we have My Little Problem. And I suppose my little problem with this song is it goes for 7 minutes and 18. And it's one of these songs which the church do occasionally, which sort of build and build and build and build and build. But I'm not sure where they're going on it. Musically, I'm talking about. It's a beautiful song, though, for what it is early on. And there's a real tenderness about this in terms of starting off with just the vocals and the bass and just really underplaying everything. And then the drums come in for the chorus. It was a perfect opportunity to step off this song at around the 5 minute mark, and kind of wish they had stopped the roundabout saying everybody wants to get off now, you can. But there's My Little Problem sort of seems to be maybe about my drug hell here, and we've got to keep going around for one more spin. Some great lyrics though. So take this plastic and rent me some wheels, or maybe I'll try to fly. No reservations, I'll see how it feels when I'm over your house up in the sky. And when the sun is squeezing through the blinds, you will be far away. So then we have the Maven, which was recorded in Stockholm, not Stockholm Mall in Sydney, but Stockholm in Sweden. And I'll be honest, when I first came across this, I thought, what the hell is a Maven? But I did a little bit of research, a little bit, and I found out it's the one who is knowledgeable. And immediately as I'm listening to this song, I'm thinking, is it a companion piece to The Disillusionist? It really has that same sort of feel. And I'm a big fan of the verses here, but I'm not such a huge fan of the chorus. I'm not complaining, it's perfectly adequate, but it sort of builds me up to get to this point. And again, it's one of these songs which goes over 7 minutes. So I'm struggling to hear how that is justified. But maybe it's in the lyrics when we hear, beware his tender touch, his plans are chilly and wide. Here is the Maven signing the check. He bought us dinner, so what the heck? Would have killed, they say, wouldn't it kill them to come up with another word other than heck? I don't know. It rips me out of the song. I find myself laughing at it. And there's a big solo towards the end from Marty. And I think this is the first time that I've really overtly missed having Peter on the album, because it's almost like we've got a guitar duel going on. It's between Marty's guitar and Marty's guitar, but I miss Peter here as well. Next up comes Angelica, and here's an interesting song because I know they love the production on Simple Minds' New Gold Dream so much. They got Peter Walsh out to do the production on Heyday, but this one really seems to be cut from the same cloth as Simple Minds' Love Song. Nothing wrong with that. It's a great song. And it owes a lot also, I think, to Travel by Thought with its sense of disengagement and its otherness. I mean, you can take the band out of Seance, but you can't take Seance out of the band. And then Marty comes along with the civilized gentleman, the civilized gentleman. And then we have a break from the backing groove, and we have strings coming in Urdu, is it? I mean, they've really got that Middle Eastern feel happening here. We've got Marty doing a lot of looping in the background, which is interesting to maintain that sort of sense of sound. But there's also a real sense here that they're throwing everything into this song. And it works sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't work quite as successfully. Next up, and then the song which follows that, is a beautiful moment of respite, and it's called Lullaby, which is just such a beautiful, gorgeous song. It reminds me a lot of Old Flame from Priest Equals Aura, and in as much as it is the break that we had to have. It's really beautiful how Marty sets the scene, and then Steve's dreamy vocals over the top are a perfect complement to the idea of the three wise men visiting Jesus on that night. Two verses in, two choruses out, and we're done. Delicate and perfect. A real highlight on this album for me. In the lyrics, opportunity knocked you up, I guess. Gave you your little baby success. You've got the potential, you've got the gift, you have the chance to heal a million riffs. Now, after that, we sort of go somewhere else in the world, although it's, actually, now I think about it, it's probably going from Jesus' birthplace in Bethlehem. We're not going too far. We've got a couple of pitching wedges away for Eastern. And we're going to the bazaars, perhaps of Egypt or Iraq or Brussels. And I say Brussels because once I got off a train at Brussels and I had no idea where I was, but I got the feeling it was over the other side of this bazaar, and it was. Anyway, it's a wonderful song. It's got reverse instrumentation on it, and Linda Neal on the violin, I think it is, just absolutely kills it with incredible scales and modes which serve to take us on this trip. You just get subsumed in it. It does take you, it's transportative and takes you to another world. It's absolutely wonderful. Next song is the first single off the album. It's called Two Places at Once. It's a long song again. It did not chart, and it's not one of my favorite songs. It sort of almost sounds like too much of a traditional song. I can imagine a lot of traditional bands playing this song. But what was the better single that they could have plucked from this? For me, maybe Authority. Anyway, it's really notable how it was put together, and they're creating their own lyrics. And it's got a bit of that West Coast singer-songwriter about it. And there's even a sense of Little Feat's Willing, Weed, Whites and Wine, and Bob Dylan with the line, I shall be released, I will be released. It does have a feeling of a Bob Dylan epic about it, but still, it's a pretty great sing-along for a chorus, and the lyrics together. Trinkets sing on a desert wind behind here, where ghosts have laid their final claim to rest. But who they loved and what they thought they stayed for has crumbled in their last dusty caress. They were so blind, blind, they were so blind. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people absolutely love that song. Let's go on with a song which I think over the years has not had so much love, and that's Businesswoman, which is the B-side to Loveblind when that came out. And I haven't heard this song in years. And when I started listening to it again and again, I didn't really kind of remember it. I think for me, what off-puts me is the opening riff. And as soon as the opening riff is finished, I'm like, beautiful. We're going to some jingle jangle world here, and I really didn't want us to come back to that middle riff in the middle, but it sort of gets paid forward because it reminds me of songs from further deeper, like Laurel Canyon and Marine Drive. I'm not a real fan of the chorus, but it's uplifting. It goes with the verse, and it takes us. It's sort of like saying, "Here we're going on an unknown destination. It's going to be fun. Are you coming along?" And I'm saying, "Okay, let's do it." And after another opening playthrough of that riff, there's a traditional guitar solo, and that's kind of like a good thing here, certainly for this sort of song. So it's got some great parts, but together I don't know that they all come together to form a great song. However, I will champion the lyrics. I think it's and the verse I think is majestic, and in the lyrics, and when she comes, the stars explode, exquisite results in input mode. Just when she comes, she's suddenly gone. And my lyric is not nearly, not ever their worst song. So there we go. And then we comes up to Authority. And I must admit that the first time I listened to this album, when I was going on for a long walk, this is the moment I tapped out because I thought, oh, this is too much in this album to get all the way through. So I took a break, and because I was starting to wonder whether this is one of the worst church songs I'd ever heard or was actually one of the great songs. And now I think it's a bit of a jingle jangle classic. There seems to be 1,000 guitars being played here, and they're all jingling and they're all jangling, and that's goodness. And every one of them sort of seems to have a different arpeggio, which is, of course, Marty's real killer strength here. But everyone sounds different, and altogether it works. I now think this is a real lost church classic. Maybe it could have tapped out a little bit earlier. It's not Tangled Up in Blue, even though Steve does put tangled in the lyrics, but I like the lyrics. On with the show. Life is a tangle of one-night triangles, a tangle of the limbs, of lithe limbs. You sleep like a baby, precious as a ruby, goodbye everything. And then Fly Home is the big progressive epic to finish the album, and it's nearly 9 minutes long, and I remember thinking, I haven't heard this song in a while. I was a little bit scared, but the opening is really tasty with this cool bass line from Steve, which sort of gives us a sense of what's to come on the next album, Magician Among the Spirits. And there's great atmospherics provided by Marty. If you've ever sort of heard the idea that the church sound like Pink Floyd, this is probably a good place to turn if that's something which is really of interest to you. And I love those twirling, python-like, shimmering strobe sounds that Marty's getting. And Marty here is on lead vocals. The chorus is very striking and it's more aggressive than the verse. But that's part of the 90s, isn't it? With the soft, loud, angry, calm sort of feel to these things. To tell you the truth, I was waiting for the middle section, and this is a psychedelic smorgasbord that they have on offer, and it starts really prominently with this classical acoustic guitar sound or riff. Of course, that's not the only guitar that's happening there. We've got a symphony of guitars going on here with lots of twisted electronic sounds, and we are definitely moving into Pink Floyd territory. And I think the song which sort of best sort of matches up is Saucer Full of Secrets, perhaps. This is an incredible moment of psychedelia forged into this song between the verses and choruses, and it's price of admission stuff. And you know what? I could have had it go on for a lot longer. I don't know that it got enough time to really grow and breathe. Marty's vocals, especially in the verses, are great, but does it warrant 9 minutes? I'm going to take a positive perspective of this and say, yes, it does. But wait, right at the end, we get a callback to Loveblind. Which sounds very much here like Careful with Their Axe, Eugene. There's definitely a sense of Pink Floyd coming through here. But the final song we get, building us up to that end, and now this is the end, is my favorite song on this album, hands down. It's called Dead Man's Dream. And I think that might be, most people who know me would probably pick that pretty early because it's so beautiful, so dreamy, so psychedelic. I could just listen to it over and over again, and I will. The reverse guitars and the soundscape that it created is delicious and so healthy in very much a good psychedelic way. And I love the melodies. I love the relaxed nature of Steve singing here. And there's its complexity in the background that underpins everything he says. And then Marty jumps on the vocals as well, and they sort of become intertwined. And that is really cool. It's like they're looking out for each other, like two kindred spirits who have found a state of nirvana here. But then we also have, it's like an acoustic conversation panning from left to right and right to left. It's a masterpiece of production and playing. You need this on your collection. If you haven't listened to this album before, to me, this is the song which says you have to have it. And there's sort of like this really quiet speaking section at the end, which reminds me of the Golden Dawn, which you can get on the double album compilation that's just been released. Isn't that terrible? After all this time, I can't remember. Hindsight. You can get on a Hindsight or on the 10-inch single or EP that they released, which was called, I'm just going to put it up there. I'm struggling, but I'm trying to get through. Anyway, so temperature drop in downtown Winterland. How about that? I think it's that. Anyway, it's almost an Herculean effort to get from Day of the Dead to Dead Man's Dream, but you know what? It's totally worth it. This album, Sometime Anywhere, is its own beast. It's got so much experimentation going on, so many different styles. It's always coming at you, one idea straight after another, and there's a lot of complexity, so many tracks, layer upon layer upon layer, that it's really a worthwhile listen. Now, Arista, their record label, didn't think so because they dropped them. And what that meant was that they had to tour this album as an acoustic duo rather than putting together a full band, which I would have loved to have seen. Anyway, so that's what... There's more. Oh, that's right. As I alluded earlier on in this video, there is more to this, and it's not an EP, it's a mini album. It's a companion piece called Somewhere Else that they also just happened to knock up at the time, and it's 7 tracks long. So if you want to check it out, why don't we go and do it over there? Thanks for watching. Stay cool. Bye now.